Robert Everest was an electrical apprentice who had been instructed to do some work on a machine called a Banbury mill. He crawled partway into the mill, got stuck, and sadly he died. Criminal charges were brought against the employer under Victoria's Occupational Health and Safety Act 1985. The charges were for a failure to comply with two duties under the Act: to provide and maintain, so far as is practicable for employees, a working environment that is safe and without risks to health, and to provide and maintain plant and systems of work that are, so far as is practicable, safe and without risks to health. The question which made its way to the High Court was whether the burden of proving practicability lay upon the prosecution or the defence. If practicability was considered to be an element of the offence, then the burden would fall on the prosecution. However, if it was considered to be an element of a defence, then it would fall on the defendant. The prosecution argued that the burden should fall on the defendant. To do so, they relied on a provision of the Interpretation of Legislation Act 1984, which said, "A construction that would promote the purpose or object of the Act shall be preferred to a construction that would not promote that purpose or object." The prosecutors argued that the purpose of the Act was to protect workers, and that if the burden of proving practicability fell on the employer, this would better provide protection for workers. The court found, however, that that was not the question. Justices Dawson, Toohey and Gaudron said, "The choice directed by the Interpretation of Legislation Act is not as to the construction which will best achieve the object of the Act. Rather, it is a limited choice between a construction that would promote the purpose or object of the Act and one that would not promote that purpose or object." They found that since it could not be said that the purpose of the Act would be frustrated or impeded in any way by the burden of proof falling upon the prosecution, the Interpretation Act didn't support shifting the burden of proof onto the defendant. After this case, adjustments were made to statutory provisions commanding a purposive interpretation, so that they now focus on the construction which best achieves the purpose of the statute.